If you have altcoins or if you hold Bitcoin, you're probably very, very scared because Bitcoin has been having a little bit of a tumble in terms of price action over the past few days. And let alone, I don't want to even get into altcoins because altcoins have been suffering way more than what Bitcoin has. So if you went all in into altcoins when Bitcoin was trading at $68,000, then you're probably very, very frustrated. I get you. I kind of did a similar thing. Now we need to be careful and understand if Bitcoin is going to go lower or if we will be able to hold here. So watch until the end of this video, smash up the like button, and subscribe if you're not a crypto kid already. And with that said, let's jump straight into the daily time frame for Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin has to hold this daily time frame support at 65.1 thousand dollars because if we fall below from this level, then Bitcoin basically has no other support until we reach 60.7k. You can argue that at 61.2, we also have another level that Bitcoin can bounce from, but it really won't make too much of a difference. I think that Bitcoin, if we lose this support, then we'll drop to that near 60 territories. Now, why is this important? Because if Bitcoin does that, then we would be confirming a bearish crossover between the 310 and 30 SMA at the same time. If we rewind to the previous bull market, then we can see that on the 4-day time frame specifically, once we had a 3 and 10 moving average crossover, then that marked the top of that bull market. In the first half of 2021, same thing happened. Second half, same thing. And we can even notice this trend when we go into the very boring consolidation phase. Bitcoin was in exactly 1 year ago. Bitcoin would top out, we have that moving average crossover, and then boom, Bitcoin rallies back towards the upside. So I think a similar thing could be happening today if Bitcoin drops on this 4-day candle close. And I am waiting for this candle close to exit some of my Bitcoin long positions because if we do, then I am expecting a drop to the $61,000 territory, and that would put Bitcoin at the lower Bollinger Band. If we lose that lower Bollinger Band, then things get nasty. It doesn't mean that Bitcoin will end the bull market. I do not think that this is the top at all, but we will probably correct to the $50,000 level. That's probably what Bitcoin is going to do if we lose that lower Bollinger Band. But as I said, I'm not closing anything yet because Bitcoin, even if we drop to that level at 661, we will be finding support between this range. And I think that Bitcoin will have a chance to bounce and fake everybody with a double top pattern, just like we did last year. So I am counting on that scenario, and I am really counting in the short term that Bitcoin bounces from 64 or 65 to complete this ascending triangle and continue rallying, as we do have support from prior resistance of this upward sloping parallel channel forming for the last 2 years. So the important levels to watch out are exactly where we are right now. $65,000 to $64,000. If we drop, then I think 61 will be possible. And if we go any below, then 50,000 could be expected. I'm not closing anything until we see this 4-day candle close. And once we do, I will reevaluate and update you guys here on this channel. So turn on the notification bell to be alerted if I close my long positions or if I take profit and everything else that I do. Now we need to look at the macro chart because I need to remind you that even if you're panicking right now, whenever Bitcoin breaks substantially above the prior all-time high created in the last Bitcoin cycle, we end up going higher. And I think the same thing will happen this time round too. There is nothing different. It's just that we need to have a strong close above the prior 69K all-time high, not by going to like 73 or 74, but we need to have a strong weekly candle close to go continuously higher and reach that $85,000 to $95,000 targets. If we look at the S&P, the S&P 500 is making all-time high after all-time high, and that's pretty good. I think the S&P will probably continue to do that. I mean, we saw Nvidia take over Microsoft as the largest asset or the largest company by market cap yesterday. So I think going into the elections, the stock market will continue to rally. And probably after we'll have a Fed pivot. And during that Fed pivot, most things can crash. And I think Bitcoin will have room to go to 95K in the meantime before we experience that larger crash on the stock market and on Bitcoin. Before we go into the breaking news, I think on the short-term time frame, we could be creating a small inverse head and shoulders pattern. But to trade that, potentially I would be looking for a Bitcoin close above the 65.7 neckline. Now let's go into the breaking news for Bitcoin and have a look at the current altcoin bloodbath because we're down. I mean, on the week, we're down like 25, 27, 10, 15% on the large 100, top 100 coins. If we go into the last 24 hours, they are up 16% respectively from where they dumped. But I think if Bitcoin continues to trade lower, things will probably get worse with altcoins, especially if the Fed decides to pivot. Currently, I am starting to DCA into some of these layer ones and layer twos and the big altcoin market cap projects because I think meme coins are probably over now, but I think the money will flow eventually into these larger cap altcoins. So do be careful. I think it's a perfect buy the dip opportunity, but I am not playing anything with leverage. I made that mistake with Injective and I got completely screwed. So I'm not putting leverage trades into any altcoins. I'm only buying in spot and holding spot. Only Bitcoin and Ethereum are my leverage trades. That's it, nothing else. But remember, I mean, when Bitcoin was at like $74,000, you were like, oh God, I should have bought this thing. Why didn't I buy? And now that it's at like 63, 64, you're saying, I'm so happy I didn't buy it because this thing is a scam. Look, you need to read the Bitcoin standard. You need to understand that regardless of wherever the price of Bitcoin is, even if it's at $74,000, if you understand what the Bitcoin standard actually tells you and why Bitcoin as an asset is super important, then you will buy the top, just like Michael Saylor, all the time and end up being profitable. So I would recommend educating yourself about Bitcoin, especially during this boring consolidation phase, and you will be okay. Now, the breaking news is that the SEC permanently suspended the investigation into Ethereum, making Ethereum a commodity and not a tradable security. That's also very good for the altcoins because Ethereum is basically the biggest security that you could possibly get in crypto with a pre-sale, an ICO, a bunch of founders. Yeah, so if Ethereum is not a security, then I think every single altcoin that you see on this page here are probably not securities too. I would just be careful of governance tokens and DAOs. They are on the edge, but everything else should be okay. That is yet again a very bullish thing. The Ethereum ETFs have a deadline for the S1 approvals for Friday, and I think as soon as those are go, by July 2nd, according to Eric Balchunas and Nate Garassi, we should be seeing the Ethereum spot ETFs launching, and I am not selling my Ethereum position until we hit the day of launch. I think going up to it, we'll probably continue to rally, but as soon as we launch, we should be frustrated by all the selling pressure from Grayscale. And I don't think the inflows into the other Ethereum ETFs will be able to compensate the Grayscale selling pressure, which is still like $11.1 billion. I would be careful of that, but I've talked about it on previous videos. So I'll get into it in the Moon Show. If you stay tuned in approximately 1 hour, we will be doing the Moon Show where I go in more detail into it. Now, the Biden administration apparently will attend a Bitcoin roundtable in DC during the month of July, and that is a huge 180-degree turn from where they were a few months ago. And I think it's mostly due to the reason why President Donald Trump has been going to rallies. And, even last night in Wisconsin, he said that to further secure America's future and create opportunity for young people, I will end Joe Biden's war on crypto, and we will ensure that the future of crypto and the future of Bitcoin will be made in America. And I think that when he does become, or if he becomes president, Gary Gensler and Chair Powell will probably be out of their position. So I think overall, this is super bullish for crypto. And at a time where 69% of Americans are fed up with the current financial system, I think Bitcoin and crypto have the perfect time to showcase their ability to the American people. Another cool thing was that Congressman Thomas Massie said that he read the Bitcoin Standard, which inspired him to introduce a bill to end the Federal Reserve. And he actually got like 24 other Congress people to co-sponsor this bill, some of the highest ever, and it should be enough to pass the bill eventually. So that will be interesting to see if it gets passed or not and what gets introduced instead of it. I need to talk about Larry Fink because Larry Fink, being the CEO of BlackRock, essentially the institution that controls everything, according to rumors, he says that no matter how much we tax, cut, or reduce debt, it will not be enough. We need to build a new infrastructure. Will that be on Bitcoin or blockchain? I think yes, it will, because they want to tokenize every single financial product and put it on the blockchain. That will help so many different things. So I think it is super, super bullish, and eventually they will do that, and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies should run in the future. Now, what El Salvador did was very, very interesting because they are actually introducing a bank where for the first time you can deposit in USD and Bitcoin at the same time. And in my opinion, if they do this and they implement this in the correct way, they implement the Bitcoin standard in the right way, then they can transition into what Singapore was in 2000 to now where it is 24 years 4 years later. And it's already super impressive that they became the safest country in the Western Hemisphere from being the murder capital in the world 2 years ago. And I think if they implement the Bitcoin standard, so many other third world countries will FOMO into this because it is a strategy that is currently working if the price of Bitcoin continues to go higher. And it would just increase adoption massively. Speaking of adoption, the CEO of X says that they will be introducing payments into their platform very, very soon. And people are speculating that this can become Dogecoin. Dogecoin could be the alternative to use payment infrastructure in the X app. And that's why I'm accumulating as much Dogecoin as possible in my portfolio, like I have been saying for the past year. And to finish things off, I think Bitcoin will do to banks what email essentially did to the post office. In the next 2 generations, I don't think people will even remember what the hell a bank is. Just like nobody knows. I don't think Alpha generation knows what a post office is because nobody uses it these days. And I think the bank will eventually become obsolete, just like how the post office became obsolete thanks to the email. But guys and girls, I hope you enjoyed that video. Have a great rest of your day. Tomorrow, I'll be interviewing an incredible technical analyst, and he will be on the Crypto Kids show or on as a video, and he will share some of his very crucial TA because the current time in the market is super important, more so than ever before. Ladies and gentlemen, take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.